Okay, we're going to look at a different type of complex number, and the number we're looking at is 5 minus 3i, and we're going to subtract the quantity negative 2 plus 4i. Okay? So what I want you to think about, we're going to do this a couple ways. This is what I want you to think about, is that this is no different than if I were taking 5 minus 3x minus negative 2 plus 4x. It's actually the same sort of thing. So if I were to do this, the first thing that I would have to do is I'm going to distribute this negative 1, because this is a negative 1 times that quantity, which means I would now have 5 minus 3x. When I distribute, I'm multiplying in, which means I no longer need to group my parentheses. So a negative times a negative is a positive 2. A negative times a positive is a negative 4x. This 5 minus 3x no longer needs to be grouped because nothing's being multiplied to it. So I simply have 5 minus 3x plus 2 minus 4x. Okay? Now we're going to combine like terms. So I know negative 3x and negative 4x are like terms, and 5 and 2 are like terms. So this is 5 plus 2, which is 7. Negative 3x minus 4x is minus 7x. Okay? So that would be how I would simplify this. I can do the same thing here. So notice how the pattern is going to be exactly the same. I'm going to multiply in my negative 1, and then that's going to give me 5 minus 3i plus 2 minus 4i. Okay? So again, my like terms are my imaginary number terms, which is negative 3i and negative 4i. So that means I can combine 5 and 2 and I get 7. Negative 3i and negative 4i give me negative 7i. So you can see how the process is exactly the same. What I want you to realize, though, is remember I has only one value, right? It has only one value, and that value is I is the square root of negative 1. So the reason I'm pointing this out to you is because the square root of negative 1 is a number. Okay? And I'm stressing that because we can actually do this in the calculator. This one we can't do in the calculator because here x is unknown. Because x is unknown, it can be any number. We don't know what it is. I can't do this in the calculator, but with i's I can. So let's go ahead and let's play around. Let's turn this on. Let's go to our regular screen. Let's put in this number exactly how we see it. So we're going to do parentheses 5 minus 3. Now where's I? I is right here above that period. So I'm going to go second the decimal. I get I. Close my parentheses. Then I'm going to do a minus, and then I'm going to do parentheses negative 2 plus 4, and then I again. Okay? So that looks exactly the same. I'm going to put enter, and look, it actually gives me the answer that I got here. And the reason it does that is because I has the value of the square root of negative 1. Has no other value. It's like pi. Pi has a specific value. I has a specific value. So any type of problem like this, you can use your calculator. So let's try one more. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to do it longhand as well as with the calculator. So I have 4 plus 3i, actually I lied, I think we're going to do 2 more, times negative 1 minus 2i, okay? So now we're multiplying. So remember, when we multiply, we're going to use the box. So I'm going to do my workspace over here on the right. 4, 3i, negative 1, negative 2i. So when we're multiplying with i's, it gets a little tricky. But we do need to know how to do this longhand, and I'll show you why in a minute. So if we do 4 times negative 1, then that means I get negative 4. 3i times negative 1 is negative 3i. 4 times negative 2i, that's going to give us negative 8i. And this is the box that we need to be particularly careful about when we're multiplying longhand. So 3i times negative 2i is negative 6i squared. Okay? So that means, what do I have? I have negative 4, negative 3i, negative 8i, negative 6i squared. These are like terms. So I have negative 4 minus 11i minus 6i squared. You may be tempted to think you're done, but you need to remember that I squared is the same as negative 1. So that means this becomes negative 4 minus 11i minus 6 times negative 1, which means this is negative 4 minus 11i plus 6, because a negative times a negative is a positive. So now I have these like terms here. I have negative 4 plus 6, which is 2, and then I have negative 11i. So that means when I multiply these together, I get 2 minus 11i. Now remember, we can do this in the calculator like we did the last problem. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in. 4 plus 3i times negative 1 minus 2i, enter, and it gave me the answer I wanted. Now before I go on, I want to say one more thing about the calculator. Here I'm using i's, and if we go to mode, we're looking here. I'm still in real mode. If it's not working for you, you see where it says a plus bi? We want to go down here, a plus bi, and put that on, and then it will work. For the most part, for these type of problems, I believe they work. Certain problems you have to put it in imaginary mode. Okay? So let's just say we have something weird. I'm going to make something up. So I'm going to make up, let's do 4 plus I square root of 3. Okay? And let's see here. 4 plus I square root of 3. So that's the same thing as 4 plus I square root of 3 all squared, right? Okay. So if I were going to go to do this in the calculator, you're going to see I'm going to get an irrational number, and that's not okay. 4 plus I square root of 3 times, well, I could actually just square it, right? But I'll go ahead and do it this way. 4 plus I square root of 3. Okay. So when I do that, you see I get this big ugly number here. I don't want that. This is an approximation. So whenever we have something that looks like this, I probably need to do it longhand. So let's just do this longhand. I promise this is the last problem in this video. So this is going to be 4 plus I square root of 3, 4 I square root of 3. We're going to multiply this out. So 4 times 4 is 16. I squared of 3 times 4 is 4I squared of 3. 4 times I squared of 3 is 4I squared of 3. Now we have I squared of 3 times I squared of 3. So I'm going to write I squared of 3, and that is all squared. Okay? So that means now I have 16 plus 4I squared of 3 plus 4I squared of 3 plus the quantity I squared of 3 all squared. These are like terms. So this is 16 plus 4I and 4I, that's 8I squared of 3. This is the same as I squared square root of 3 squared. So this is 16 plus 8I squared of 3 plus, I know I squared is negative 1. The square root of 3 squared is 3. I'm going to show you a little shortcut here in a minute. So this is 16 plus 8I squared of 3 minus 3. Those are my like terms. So that gives me 13, because 16 minus 3 is 13, plus 8I square root of 3. So my answer here, simplified, is 13 plus 8I squared of 3. We could not do this problem in the calculator because this becomes irrational. Okay? But let me show you something. This right here, I can do this last box. Remember I said this last box here with imaginary numbers is pretty tricky? You can always use your calculator in that last box. So I can do parentheses, I square root of 3, close it, and square it, and you'll see I got negative 3. And that was the number that I got right here. So I could have just put negative 3 here from the get-go.